Alright, what's going on, guys? So I'm going to be doing a video now on one tip for every rank in Siege. The goal of this is to sort of, whatever rank you are, you can learn from this and improve onto the next rank and onto the next rank and keep going through the tiers of ranks with tips. And then what you should be thinking about while you're playing if you're in each rank. What I will say as well is it works in terms of like, it adds to the next tier. So I would recommend watching the whole thing through. So you can understand from like a basic to more advanced kind of thing. So for copper, I would probably assume that it's more so external factors that are hindering your gameplay and how you can't rank up. So I would assume it's things like your settings, your mouse, your keyboard, your headset. I'm not saying you should be going out and buying the most expensive like gear in terms of mouse, keyboard and headset, but generally anything sort of like gaming related or branded should be alright, and obviously you can go for the more budget tiers if that's what you need to do. If you want some help on picking things like a mouse, I'll leave in the description 2 links to Rocket Jump Ninja website. One will be his top picks and mice, and the other will be his sort of guide for how you can pick a mouse based on your shape of your hand, your size of your hand. Sorry, Rocket Jump Ninja is a trusted source because he's reviewed like hundreds of mice for over 10 years, so he's definitely knows his way around the mouse. And then in terms of keyboard, I would recommend anything that's sort of mechanical rather than a membrane keyboard, which is really not going to be good for gaming with. And then headset, honestly, just any sort of gaming brand headset will probably do you fine. And then in terms of settings, I'm not going to sit and say there's a perfect setting. Like, there's not a perfect sensitivity, there's not a perfect FOV, there's not a perfect aspect ratio, but there is definitely sort of bad sensitivities and bad aspect ratios and bad FOVs. Well, actually no, it's not really bad FOVs, but I would recommend for you to play within a range of sensitivities, which I would recommend is for DPIs. I would recommend you play between 4, 8 and 1600 DPI, or 12 if you want to. Anything that's a sort of dividable by 4, because mice tend to play well with that sort of stuff and they don't tend to play well with other sort of numbers. As well as in-game settings, I would recommend, I'm going to use 400 DPI for like an example, and then if you're on 400 DPI, I would recommend anything within the range of 5 to 30, because anything higher than that you'll start like, it'll be too hard to control like accurately, as well as you'll find things like pixel skipping and stutters within the game because it can't keep up with that speed basically. And I would also recommend that for your ADS sensitivity, that as you go up the scale of like between 5 and 30, if you go higher in the scale, if you want to play a higher sense, then you would lower that ADS sensitivity, like sort of accordingly, because playing 5, 59 1x ADS is not the same as playing 30, 59 ADS, because it's a sort of percentage based on your horizontal and vertical scope is how it works out the ADS speed. So yeah, I would recommend you play within them ranges. And then in terms of FOV and aspect ratio, that's more so personal preference, but generally people like to play on 16:9, 16:10, 3:2, 4:3 or 5:4, kind of within that ballpark. So yeah, just kind of play around with them, play around with sensitivity and find what works good for you. For bronze, I would recommend that you pick a main operator, and you learn how to play that operator ins and outs. You learn setups and you watch sort of guides on that operator. This is because at this rank, generally people don't focus a lot on sort of strategy and map knowledge and map awareness. So generally, as long as you know your way around your operator, you can set up your operator like how utility in a good position, and you can sort of like use that operator. You'll stand a good chance of winning games. And like, as well as you progress, if you get more in touch with that operator, you'll get better and better. If you're not as good as a player, if you focus all your attention onto one operator, you can, like, let's say you get to about a 6 out of 10, you can put the same amount of energy into learning all the operators, and you'll probably only be at like a 2, 3 on all of them if you're being sort of nice. So just focus on one operator, learning how to play them, preferably not a one that gets banned often, and then go from there. You can sort of there's a lot of guides out there for how you can pick your favorite operator in terms of things of like how you play and things like that. So I'd recommend just looking up things like that and learning from there, and then learning operator guides and setups for that operators, and then the ins and out of the operator, like what they're good at countering, how they counter things, stuff like that. So for silver rank players, to add to the bronze rank, you should have a main. You should be learning that main and good at that main. This is where you also want to start learning the maps, and things like where you can play vertical play, where you can play things like common strategies on the maps, how you set the map up as a defender, how you should push, what walls you should be trying to breach, and then what positionings you should have, where you should be playing. In terms of defense, where you should be roaming, where you should be falling back, how you should be falling back to site, how you should be, or if you're an anchorer, where should you play on site, where's a good like safe positions to go on cams and watch for your teammates and give info for your teammates, where you should be as an attacker, where you should be droning, how you should be like sort of going navigating the map in terms of like if you're attacking CCTV on Clubhouse, you don't want to be running around in basement when there's 10 seconds left on the round, sort of where you should be at sort of different parts in the round in relation to how long's left here. In my opinion, gold rank is typically the sort of ELO hell for people that are good with mechanics but bad in terms of siege IQ and map knowledge. So if you have an idea of the maps and you've got a main that you're confident with because you've gone through the last 2 tips, if you now work on your mechanical skills, you should easily be able to sort of win more games, because you can out sort of smart your enemies and then now you can also out aim them because you're working on your aim and your mechanics. So for what I'd recommend that you should focus on with this is you should be focusing on things like crosshair placement, reaction time, flicking, tracking. And to do this, you can either use an aim trainer if you'd like to sort of isolate the different sort of things with flicking, tracking, or reactions or crosshair. But what I'd recommend is to play deathmatch, because aim trainers generally get boring, and if you're bored, you're not going to learn as fast. You're not going to improve as fast as if you're actually like engaged, focused, and playing the game. As well as you'll learn things like recoil, you'll learn things like how people navigate the map. If you're playing deathmatch, you'll actually play against real people, so you'll see how people approach gunfights. You'll see how they lean, if they like quick peek, if they lean spam, if they just swing you, if they crouch spam, things like that. You'll start figuring that out, and you'll start like learning it yourself, how to do it yourself. So playing a bit of deathmatch. You don't have to play like 5 hours of deathmatch a day, but just play maybe 3, 4, 5 if you have the time, or even just play a couple before you start playing the game, just to get warmed up and get your mechanics ready, and then start playing ranked. For platinum players, this sort of I would recommend is where you hone your skills that you already have, as well as focusing on things like utility usage. So on attack, how you can sort of use things like flashbangs, or nades, or even your primary gadgets, like what you're ass charging, what you're sledging, how you're sledging things, how you thermiting things, how you're acing things. Are you typically, when you're trying to ace things, are you getting impact trick, or when you're trying to hub on things, are you getting impact trick? Things like that. How you can counter things like that, and then also look at things like what also comes into a utility usage, in my opinion, is droning. How you're droning for your teammates, how you're droning for yourself, how you are like capitalizing on your drones. Are your teammates pushing in off your drones? Are you telling your teammates to push in off your drones? Are you clearing too far ahead of your teammates on the drones, so that when your teammates get there, the info is old? Are you not droning far enough ahead of your teammates, so you end up getting shot while they're trying to enter, thinking it's clear? Things like that you should be thinking about in this rank. So for Emerald rank, I would personally recommend that this is where you sort of expand your operator pool, and focus on things like playing different operators, because generally at this rank is where you're going to start having to use more team play and coordinated play. So if you can be the sort of backbone Swiss Army knife that the team needs to play the roles that people don't want to play, or to play different roles, then you'll end up winning more games. Because let's say there's 5 people on the team, all 5 people can only play Ash. How are you going to get a wall open? How are you going to get vertical play done? Things like that. You need to learn how to do all that sort of stuff, and sort of improve at different roles. So to do this, I would recommend learning about different roles within the game. So like things like hard breach role, flex roles, support roles. And then once you've learned each different roles, you'll learn like what operators are in part of each role, what are the best operators at doing certain things for that role. So like what's the best operator for breaching walls, what's the best operator for making vertical play, things like that. And then you'll when you're in the operator selection phases, you'll be able to sort of look through what's being picked, what's not being picked, what's missing, where's the gap in the lineup, and you'll be able to fill that gap and play better and win more games, because you'll have a more well-rounded sort of team comp. And yeah, and then if you learn how to play more operators well, you won't have to rely on a teammate to know how to play every single role. Because if you flex onto a role that you're confident with, rather than someone that's never played a hard breach before flexes onto a hard breach, they're not going to play as well as you might if you know how to play a hard breach. That kind of things you need to think about. When it comes to diamond rank and you're trying to push for champ, I would personally recommend that this is where you sort of focus on honing all of the above, as well as team play, coordination, and sort of developing more advanced strategies. So this is things like how you clear roams as a stack, how you pinch players, how you hold cutoffs, which refers to if you're clearing the map, how you have you tell somebody to go hold the cutoff angle, which will catch a defender that's rotating from the roam back to site, and things like that. You'll also have to think about things like how you hold flanks. Are you holding flanks? Keep things in mind like, is the flank being held? If it's not being held, then you have to keep it in mind that someone could possibly flank you. It's just where you sort of think about the game more. You think about how you can counter the enemies more. You sort of play more actively rather than just sort of passively in autopilot going into the game, going into each round. You're actively thinking about how did I just die there? How can I not die in that position again? If I've just been killed on the flank, how do I make sure that never happens again in this game or any other game? And once if you keep doing that, if you die to a scenario and then you think about how you can never die to that scenario again, and you keep doing that every time, you'll find that, well, I mean, simply you'll die less because you'll be ready for more stuff. Obviously that's like a perfect world. There's things like that you can't sort of account for, things like unlucky stuff, or like random FPS drops to where you and then you end up dying, or like game crashes, things like that. But if you can focus on if you can focus on improving everything that you can control, then you'll start reaching the higher diamonds and champs, if that's where you're trying to go for, which I'm assuming it is. I would also recommend that for diamond players and up, you would want a 5 stack. You can do it solo queue, you can reach champ solo queue, but it's not very fun. So I would recommend you getting a consistent 5 stack that you like to play with. You all have the right roles, you all know how to coordinate with each other, and then you start sort of improving things like how you coordinate with each other, how you push players out of angles. What you'll find that is if everybody in the stack knows where their role is and what they need to do, there'll never be things that are missed. Obviously someone might forget something, so there might something be missed, but generally for the most part you'll have all your bases covered if you have the right role, people on the right roles that they want to play, and the right sort of stack. Right, so I'm not going to give a tip for champ players because, I mean, you're each champ, you don't need any more tips, you've already won. So if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.